All right, welcome to Charlotte. We're not in our normal spot. Thought we'd be festive today with the Christmas tree in the background. Got up here yesterday, Madison, watched the press conferences, watched the team walk through. This is your first ACC championship. What was the experience like yesterday?
It was a really fun experience. I really liked seeing all the players come out. That was really cool. I liked hearing Dabo talk. I liked to see his relationship with Mac Brown. I thought overall the ACC did really good job putting everything together and like the branding and everything. And I thought it was a really nice experience.
Davis, anything stick out to you from the Mac Brown, Dabo Sweeney Love Fest?
Yeah, well, I was just going to hit on that and echo. It was very much like like they'll let anybody in here moment. I think I mentioned that y'all last night, but you don't see like coaches just openly express, like opposing coaches or any coaches really in that industry sort of openly express just like how big of fans they are of each other. But I guess Dabo has told the story a lot of times. I wrote on it again last night. Just the fact that, Mac Brown was the one coach that let him come and visit and sort of scout their program at Texas back when Dabo first got the permanent job at Clemson back in 2009, I guess now. So, and so that's interesting that he would let him do that, and all these years later, now they're meeting for the ACC championship game on the ACC's biggest stage. So this is the second time I think they've met head to head. They met 2019 when Clemson played it in Chapel Hill and won that game. So, yeah, that was interesting just to hear that.
Man, you bring back bad memories. My heart attack, my pacing on the sidelines. Bart and I suffering through the end of that one in Chapel Hill. All right, let's turn to today. Let's turn to the football game. Madison, what are some of the key things you're looking for from Clemson tonight to come out with a win?
I think for sure it has to be Clemson's offense. I think a lot is going to be riding on this game to see how they come back after the loss to South Carolina. So a lot is going to be said about how DJ plays and if Cade comes in and what the offense is going to look like today. I think a lot is unknown. I also think it's really going to be important that the defense does a good job stopping Drake May. I think that he is definitely the biggest X factor of the North Carolina offense, and I think a big key is going to be our defense playing very physical today.
All right, Mr. Davis, what are your keys tonight?
Yeah, I'll sort of piggyback off that, go a little more in detail, but I think it's going to be fascinating to see just how often Wes Goodwin decides to pressure versus sit back against what is easily the best passing offense that they faced this year. North Carolina comes in this game 8th in the country in that department. So I think from a matchup perspective, it's maybe the worst for the Clemson defense, just considering how the secondary has performed this year. But you can't, sort of to Madison's point, you can't just let him sit back there in the pocket. He's going to pick you apart. But so, it would help a lot for this defense if that front four by itself could generate pressure, because then you're able to sit back and play more coverage and drop 6 or 7 guys into coverage rather than having to blitz your linebackers all the time, because, if it's not ideal for Clemson, and it's a bad matchup if they have to go man-to-man in the secondary, I think, against this passing game. So that's one thing that I'm going to be watching. Then the second thing is, keep it going on the ground. I mean, you got to stick to the running game. That's the identity of this offense. It's become the identity of this offense for the last third of the season. Particularly with this passing game just being so Jekyll and Hyde, you just don't know what version of that's going to show up week to week. I think this is a game Clemson's going to have to rush for at least 200 yards and maybe even get to that 250, 300 range if they're going to have a chance to win this game.
Well, Will Shipley comes home to Charlotte. Trenton Simpson comes home to Charlotte, both of two of Clemson's stars. This is a game I'm kind of with you, Davis. I'm looking for the running game. I'm looking for pressure from the front four. Could be the last game for some of these Tigers, depending on where they end up in the bowl game. You mentioned the toughest passing offense they faced. If they go to the Orange Bowl, they'll face another one in Tennessee most likely. So they need to figure that out, how to get the pressure at the right times, how to maybe keep him guessing a little bit, Drake May. But I think the biggest thing for me is just the attitude. Which team wants to be here, is excited to be here, kind of forgets about the last game and, wants to go win that championship. If that's Clemson, then I think they take care of business. If they've got their mind in the wrong place, then I think this could be another game that's a little bit of trouble for them. All right, we're going to go out on the limb, give our predictions for this week. And I've already put mine in the article this morning. I don't remember what my score was, so we're going to maybe change it up a little bit. Madison, what's your prediction?
I think it's really hard to predict because the Clemson team is unpredictable, as you guys were saying. But I think they're going to come out with a reinvigorated energy. I think it's going to be a close game. I think that they're going to be trailing most of the game, but I think they're going to win 45-41.
Oh, trailing most of the game is going to make me nervous. Pacing. All right, Davis.
Man, I've gone back on this.
I've seen your score.
Yeah, I've gone back. I spent most of the week going back and forth on this game. It's just so hard to predict what this Clemson team's going to do. And you make a very valid point. Like, are they actually going to be motivated? 'Cause I'm not sold on Madison's prediction that they're just going to be this invigorated team, particularly, coming. I mean, it's one thing to be playing for a championship. Obviously, that's a big deal. But it makes it weird to even talk about that but you are coming off a rivalry loss that essentially knocked you out of the playoff, and then you see USC lose last night, and so you keep watching all these teams in front of you lose, and what might have been, you have to think if you're Clemson. So I don't know, but as I mentioned earlier, I do think this is the worst matchup for Clemson's defense, just with how vulnerable they've been in the secondary. I do think Clemson's going to be able to move the ball because North Carolina's defense isn't good. Now they've played a little bit better these last few games, but they haven't been able to stop the run or much of anything really all year. So I do think Clemson's going to be able to run the ball, but I don't know if Clemson's offense has enough balance to keep up in a game that I do think is going to turn into sort of a semi-shootout. And then the turnover issue. I mean, it's been an issue for 5 straight games. And if Clemson loses the turnover battle tonight, playing their first, I guess, what you consider a road game since that Notre Dame game, I think they're going to certainly lose the game. So, but I'm going to go Clemson or North Carolina 34, Clemson 31.
Man, Davis, read that this morning. I did remember my score. You mentioned the USC upset last night, the real USC. Based on that result, Clemson had won last week. They win tonight. They're going to the playoff. So that's got to sting even more, losing that game last week. I went Clemson with the win. My score prediction was 41, Clemson 27, North Carolina. I think we're going to see some points, obviously, on both sides of the ball. I got no idea. This team has been the hardest team to predict that I can remember from a Clemson standpoint. Quarterback, just hard to predict. I tell you what I would like to see tonight for the Clemson's future. I actually think it would be nice if we saw Cade come in, play well, Clemson win the game. You feel like you got your quarterback of the future. Most important thing, obviously, is to win the game. So we got everything covered for you all day long. We got Bart helping us shoot that back there. We're going to have some great photo galleries tonight. Tons of stuff headed to your way. Hopefully a nice championship photo gallery later tonight. So stay tuned to the Clemson Insider. We'll have it all covered for you live from Charlotte.